actually a pretty sunny, beautiful day here in Portland, and it's going to be probably one of my last weekends here. We're going to be moving soon, which is kind of bittersweet, but it is what it is. So today I'm drinking Onyx's decaf again. It's incredible how prevalent the apricot smell is, especially since you wouldn't expect apricot in coffee, but it's a very, very good coffee. So today we're going to talk about a book by Adrian Tchaikovsky, who's kind of become one of my favorite sci-fi writers at this point. And the book is called Shroud. It was published in June of 2025. I briefly touched on this in the CFRK podcast. You can check it out here. I think this book is another example of Tchaikovsky's unique creation of alien species in unique worlds. I couldn't help but think of one of my short stories as I was reading the book, and I'll explain why. So this episode is going to be a little different, where I'm actually going to be talking about one of my stories compared to a book, rather than kind of two books in conversation. But I think that's fine. I wrote, it's my channel. I wrote the stories. I should be able to talk about them. And so the setup for Shroud is that this group of humans, as part of the concern, arrive in a system and begin evaluating the system for material to exploit. That exploitation is planets, asteroid moons. Really, it's anything that's available for exploitation. If a planet has rings, they're going to exploit that. But uniquely in this system, there's a moon that is screaming with RF. That's the way that it's described by all the characters, by Tchaikovsky. And this is unique because the humans have never seen anything like this before. So there's a decision to investigate this to figure out how they can exploit it. You can think of the concern as kind of the opposite of the culture. If you've read Ian M. Banks' The Culture books, the concern is almost the exact opposite of that, where this is pure capitalism, pure interfering with any planet for any reason to exploit it, and it is certainly are an example of our late stage capitalism. People's value is based on what they can produce for the concern, and it is constantly referenced in the amount of food they get, the amount of resources they're able to get, and just the money that they make. And if they aren't actually producing anything in value, they're shelved. It's what is literally called in the book, and that's basically just being put back in hibernation because they're doing interstellar travel, and so that means that they need to hibernate if they want people to be alive on either end of it. And since it's expensive to keep people alive or to have generational ships, they go the cheap route, which is just hibernating people and having them wake up as their value is necessitated and go back to sleep whenever their value is gone. Shroud itself is a moon which is tidally locked to a gas giant. The moon is significantly larger than Earth, so this would be traditionally classified as a planet, but because it's actually revolving a gas giant similar to Jupiter, larger than Jupiter, that is almost a star, like Jupiter almost was. And in fact, you could argue that this one is closer because there's actually some ignition coming from it, but it's not enough to actually send light to the planet's surface or the moon's surface or anything like that. And like Jupiter, it is very far from the sun, so there's not really any heat getting out there from the star itself. The other reason why no light actually touches the surface is because of the density of the atmosphere. It is a very dense atmosphere, and it has no oxygen, and so this means that there's a lot more of the greenhouse gases. There's more complicated versions of that. There's more sulfur type production. In fact, the way that Tchaikovsky describes it is that the liquid, because there is a sea and it's frozen, but where it's warm enough, it's actually just kind of a continual gradation where you'll be out of the water, but it's as thick as pea soup. I mean, like, the fog is still is wet to the point where you're almost as if you're in water. And that's part of the reason why the life evolves the way that it does. So, of course, the biggest challenge in this space for humans is the darkness. There is no light beyond a certain very extreme outer atmosphere of this moon, and so that kind of requires everybody to think about this almost more as a submersible. I would almost feel like, well, as I was reading this, I kind of feel like this book was written about what if the Marianas Trench was a moon, or was a planet, or was a place we visited, because just how deep and dark it is, the amount of pressure. I mean, in the Marianas Trenches, you're multiple atmospheres, and it's the same thing on Shroud, where if you're on the actual physical surface, it is multiple, like I think it's somewhere between 10 and 20 times the gravity of Earth, which immediately would kill a human. So that tells you how toxic it is. It's not just the type of gases that are in the environment, but also the pressure that makes it not amenable to human life. So the book is written in first person, which is a little bit different for Tchaikovsky. He kind of bounces around between these different views, but this one is entirely written in first person, and the main character is a woman named Juna Sealander, and she talks about how chilling the darkness is and how unnerving the lack of stars in the skies were. Which in space you're always going to be able to see stars. They're going to be, unless you're being blocked by some sort of gases or you're in a nebula, but if you're out in space and you look away from the sun and the earth or whatever, you'll see stars. There's not going to be any of the atmospheric distortion, which can attenuate the light and all that sort of stuff. But this place is so dark, there is actually no starlight. And in my story, Edge of Blackness, which is why I thought about this, is that there are similarities here, where there's a crew that arrives in a new solar system. They're confronted with a curtain of darkness around their ship. People are in hibernation, and the only reason the crew member even realizes something's even wrong is because he's like looking into the inky blackness of space and realizes, wait a minute, I should be able to see stars that way, and I can't. Or if not stars, light reflected from the planets or from the sun, the central star in that solar system. And eventually a crew member sends a drone out into the inky darkness and discovers it's a physical thing. And the drone is swallowed up, and he loses RF connection to it. And eventually he escalates to a captain, wakes her up from hibernation, and ultimately humanity learns that there's a powerful entity that protects this solar system, specifically one of the planets that demands humanity stay away from that. And really, the humans don't have much choice in the matter because of what happens in the story. And I think it evokes a certain type of terror whenever you are not able to see the stars. You should be able to, because we're generationally we're used to it, and we're used to be able to see it even unless there's a cloudy sky. But we know what cloudy skies look like at night. So I just kind of thought it was interesting. I don't think that Tchaikovsky read my story or anything like that. They're not related at all. It's not a unique idea, but it was interesting, the similarities that between the two stories. The other similarities are, so like I said, I think that these comparisons are important to grow as a writer. It helped me understand where my weaknesses are and in my ideas and how I can expand them, and the ideas are really, they did come from a different place. I really do think that Tchaikovsky was imagining this being something of a deep sea book, because the other thing is the creatures in this they feel very alien to us, but they also have this interesting way of moving where they're exploiting material that is native to that space. So they're able to extract metals from certain surfaces, and they turn that into basically stilts. And there are certainly a variety of crabs that we know that use like detritus to like build safe homes for themselves. And the other thing is like these creatures are able to adapt what they're using based on the environment that they're in. So if they're actually in what is the ocean or the sea of this planet, they're able to convert these things into something that helps them swim rather than help them maneuver around in this very intense environment. And the big thing with this book is that since there's no actual vision, everything is done through communication of RF. And since RF travels very much farther than you would expect, that's why the planet is screaming. Every single creature in this planet produces RF. They are using RF to detect each other. They are using RF to counter, create negative spaces in the RF so that they aren't detected. And they use these non-standard, or like, you can kind of think of it as the way that the Fremen kind of walk in Dune, where they have to walk in unpredictable manners. And you can think of these creatures as moving that way. Not only are they not symmetrical, they are intentionally asymmetrical and moving in a juddering, unpredictable manner that helps them be ignored by some other creatures' RF. The thing that's interesting about this is about these creatures is that Tchaikovsky kind of builds on his idea from Children of Memory, where in that book there's pairs of ravens have a sapientness between them, but if they're independent of each other far enough away, they act as kind of like very intelligent birds, but they don't have that. They don't have the ability to understand everything and grow and learn and the same thing with the primary creatures who you actually are invited into their mind, because while I said that it's written in first person and the main character is Juna Sealander, there is this ongoing entity that is following Sealander as they use their submarine type thing throughout the world, throughout Shroud. It's really interesting the way that Tchaikovsky wrote them, because the more of the creatures there are within a certain area, the more intellectually capable the creature is. And you can actually see this kind of going through like a sinusoidal type process as the creature is moving throughout the world. And I think it's really pretty interesting. And of course, in some ways this is also a reference to superorganisms like ants and all that. And if you want to learn more about superorganisms, I really recommend this Lindsay Nicole video. She just did a video about them. I think this book was really interesting. I thought it was really unique, and I thought it was kind of neat to tie it to one of my stories in The Many Lives of Death. I have a link down below, and I really hope you check it out and give me some feedback on my stories. I would love to hear them. Well, I mean, I would love and I dread to hear it because it's scary getting that sort of feedback, but I really appreciate you watching. And if you have a suggestion for another video, or have you read Shroud? Do you have any thoughts about it? Have you read my book already? Do you have any thoughts about the Edge of Darkness? I really hope you have a good day, and thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.